Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video I'm going to give you my thoughts, my breakdown on this video, which I have not yet seen, has not yet been released at time of recording. I'm getting an early look so I can bring this out to you basically as soon as this video goes live. But our Accessory Ascension preview. I'm certainly intrigued. This new Shadowkin type boss, ascending accessories. Is it going to be just an endgame thing? Is the boss going to be any good? These are the questions that are on my mind. I'm barely getting time to record this before flying over to the UK. I live in Ireland, right? Ireland not part of the UK, or well, Northern Ireland is, but the Republic of Ireland, its own country. I'm flying over to the UK, leaving in about an hour and a half from recording this. And yeah, going to be meeting up with YST. And we're going to be getting the train down to London, where we're meeting up with Deadwood Jedi, who's over visiting Europe from America. And yeah, I think Hell Hades might be there. I think a bunch of HH Gaming guys might show up as well. Scratch maybe is going to come. Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty fun. It should be interesting. I heard Cold Brew might come, but I don't know if that's actually true. He has to come one of the furthest distances, so I don't know. We'll see, but it should be a great time anyway. Look, so we might do some vlogs and stuff. I'll take some photos. We'll see how it goes. But let's dive into this video and let's see what the deal is with Accessory Ascension.
Our newest update preview video, dedicated to Accessory Ascension. We teased this feature in our most recent What's Next in Raid video, but now it's time for the big reveal. First things first, Accessory Ascension.
Okay, so first thing I'm seeing right here, HP, attack, defense, accuracy, or resistance. So they're all the big ones you'd expect from the banner. Certainly interesting. Certainly interesting was with the ring, which we saw in that previous video. As you maybe know, rings can, in terms of primary stat, only be flat HP, attack, or defense. And it looked like those are the ascensions, flat HP, attack, or defense. What's interesting here is with the banner, it is the same thing. There's no percentage though. So I feel like going for resistance or accuracy is probably going to be overall the most valuable.
Exactly the same as Artifact Ascension. So we won't rehash all the core mechanics in full. You can find a link to our Artifact Ascension guide in the description below, or read the in-game guide if you need a full recap. The one important thing to mention is that instead of oil, you'll be using a new resource called Extract to ascend your accessory.
I hate that he's called Extract. Extract, I don't know. He has the emphasis on the wrong part of the word. It doesn't matter, but I do find it funny that it's like 30 seconds into the video here, and he's like, you know what? It works exactly the same as ascending gear. Video over. Thanks for watching. No, there's more. There's more.
Just like potions and oil, Extract comes in 3 types: lesser, greater, and superior. The higher you want to ascend your accessories, the higher grade extract you'll need. Ascending an accessory will unlock a new bonus.
So one thing to check, 1800 HP, how much, if I went to like flat defense, well, let's actually find flat HP be the better. Here we go. So flat HP, does that ascend to the full thing? No, that's interesting. So the banner is actually stronger. I'm pretty sure that the ring was the same, but it looks like the banner actually does ascend to be stronger. Okay, so that sort of makes up for the fact that you've got no percentage stuff there. So it means that, yes, accuracy is still extremely good for like debuffers and that sort of stuff. But I guess that flat attack or flat HP or defense for those defensive champions or building champions to be tanky, that actually adds up to a good chunk. That's actually quite a decent chunk. All right.
That improves with every new ascension level. And you won't be able to ascend accessories that are below rank 4 and level 12. That's about it. But this magical extract doesn't grow on trees. At least, not any normal tree. Nope. You'll have to head to a new dungeon and win it via glorious battle. The Phantom Shogun's Grove is the place where it all happens. There, a mighty new boss awaits. Akumo.
Interesting. Are there only 20 stages?
Mighty new boss awaits.
Goes to stage 20. He's level 300. And it costs 16 energy. I imagine it probably goes... Does it go higher? Let's see how that compares to Sand Devil. That's what I'm interested in seeing here. So if we come over to the Sand Devil's Necropolis, goes all the way to stage 25. If we put it down to stage 20, yeah, surely this goes to stage 25, right? Stage 20. Actually, oh, maybe not. That's interesting. Look, the basic oil is different. If we compare stage 20 to stage 20, same level 300, Same energy, 16, 2 to 3 big, 4 to 5 medium. They've actually way increased the small potions. I wonder... I don't know. That's interesting. So stage 15 is 12 to 14. Okay, yeah. I wonder if that's like stop people, because I farm stage 7 a lot. I wonder if it's something to do with that. Are they trying to make the higher stages more valuable? Or does this just make the lower stages more valuable? I'm not smart enough to work that out in the short amount of time I have. So let's just move forwards.
The Phantom Shogun. This ghostly daimyo is not playing around and has a couple tricks up his sleeves, including a new debuff and a special counter. But don't worry, we've got your back. Let's see how you can exercise the Phantom Shogun. Akumari's got quite the arsenal of impressive and complex skills that all tie into his unique mechanics. In order to understand them,
that's an
we're going to
AoE
start
buff
with
strip.
his third skill, Forest of Spears, to cover the important basics. Before unleashing any damage, Akumari first places a block passive skills debuff on your entire party for 3 turns. What's worse, this debuff cannot be resisted and it's protected. Sorry, UDK, this isn't your fight. After that, Akumari smacks...
Interesting. Also, this means that Geomancer, it's not Geomancer's fight. That's where most of Geomancer's damage comes from. It's the passive reflecting damage. Godseeker Aniri doing cheese strategies and reviving people, not going to be the fight. Her passive won't revive her. Or well, I mean, that's how you set it up for Sand Devil, but that's interesting. So passive's not going to work.
Your champion with the highest crit damage, and then places an irresistible and unblockable enfeeble debuff on them. What's that? A new debuff? Why, yes. Akumari brings to bear a brand new debuff called Enfeeble. Champions under this new debuff can only place weak hits. Not only does this drastically decrease your damage and mean you cannot place debuffs in most situations, but it also plays into another major mechanic that we'll discuss in a moment. Next up, let's look at Akumari's passive skills. The first one, Shroud of the Shogun.
Oh my god, that's a wall of text.
The new enfeebled debuff we've just discussed. Akumari starts the battle with a special shade counter, and you're not going to want to let this thing tick up. The shade counter can be increased
if you let this tick up, it forces you to read that wall of text every single time.
Ways. It increases by 8 stacks whenever one of your champions places a weak hit on Akumari.
Okay.
5 stacks for every critical hit Akumari himself deals out, and by 2 stacks for every enfeebled debuff you cleanse from your team. Each shade counter stack increases Akumari's critical rate by 1% and critical damage by 2%. So he's only getting stronger the longer he stays in the shade. Last but not least, the Shroud of the Shogun passive also grants Akumari immunity to turn meter reduction effects and enfeeble. If you think you're going to slow this samurai from exacting his revenge, think again. Okay, so that has to be it with the shade counter. No more horrible surprises? Well, we'd hate to disappoint you, as Akumari's Shroud of the Shogun passive also gives him access to some pretty powerful immunities, if you let him gather his strength. At 10 shade counter stacks, Akumari gets full immunity to poison damage. At 20 stacks, HP burn and smite damage.
Interesting. Like, surely 10 stacks, that kicks in very quickly, so poison's not going to be a thing, surely. HP burn is going to kick out pretty early on too. It's only a single target fight, but that does limit things like Ninja, for example, right? The single target HP burn exploders are going to be weaker. Brimstone going out as well. They're like, it's too powerful. Awaken your champions, please. But it doesn't work though. Thanks for your money.
No longer bother him. When the counter reaches 30 stacks, skills that deal damage based on Akumari's max HP become irrelevant. That's right, attacks like Cold Heart's Heartseeker and any of Acrizia's skills will deal no damage if the shade counter gets above 30.
Why did you say your name was Accrizia? Accrizia? Where's the T? I don't know.
Finally.
Give up.
Oh yeah, there's more. When the shade counter hits 40 and above, Akumari will ignore 100% of the target's defense when attacking. And if he kills a champion, he will immediately attack the rest of your party with an AoE attack. When the Phantom Shogun throws shade, he really means it. As you can see, you'll definitely want to keep the shade counter low at all costs. So let's dive into how you can do just that. Thanks to Akumari's Purge, the Shadow passive skill, awakened champions can decrease the shade counter whenever they attack. The exact number of stacks...
Boo. Boo. Oh, this absolutely sucks. This absolutely sucks balls. Right, so it literally is just you decrease the counter by 1 point for each awakening level. What this is going to mean, I can tell you right now, almost definitely you're not going to be farming the higher levels of this unless you've got massively awakened champions. Like, most likely it's going to be almost impossible. That is such a pain. It's such a pain. Ugh. I hate this so much.
Depends on their awakening level. So, champions with 1 awakening level will remove 1 stack per attack.
The reason, okay, just in case anyone doesn't know, I'm sort of assuming you know, the reason I hate this so much is that for a normal player to actually acquire awakened champions, the amount of soul stones you get are so low, and the rate of pulling souls from those soul stones are so low, it just takes absolutely forever. Like, most players that have been, let's say a free-to-play player who's been farming end game all of the Hydra stones, all of the Iron Twin stones since it came out for a good few months now, multiple months, probably is sitting on lots of unawakened champions. A good few maybe at 1 star, maybe some at 2 star. They might have a couple higher than that if they're lucky, but that's about it, right? The idea of having multiple, 4, 5, 6 star awakened champions, that is not something that's available to someone that's playing the game for free, or at least it's going to take you multiple years. So yeah,
while champions who are fully awakened will remove 6 shade counter stacks per skill. Given how powerful Akumori can become when his shade counter increases, I don't need to tell you how important it is to bring awakened champions to this fight, especially on the later stages. Whew, we've talked so much about Akumori.
I mean, what this means is, realistically, we'll see what else he's going to say, but I think realistically, this means that this dungeon, for most people, might as well not exist.
Passives. Let's get back to his active skills. Unlike Forest of Spears, all of Akumori's other active skills will prioritize champions under an enfeebled debuff as their main target. Top tip, use the taunt buff to keep Akumori's attention away from your squishier champions under enfeeble.
That's cool.
Scourge
That's
Sword.
fun.
Akumori's second skill is another brutal attack. Firstly, the Phantom Shogun targets 1 enemy. After he smacked that champion, he'll then remove all buffs from your team, except from the initial target of the attack. As if that wasn't enough, Akumori will then spread the enfeebled debuff from the initial target to everyone else on your team. Remember, when Akumori uses his Forest of Spears skill, he places a protected enfeebled debuff, and he's looking to spread that debuff across your team with Scourge Sword. And because he's such a generous soul, Akumori will make sure that any champion who received an enfeebled debuff also gets a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. I know what you're thinking.
So this looks like, do they have block debuff? I wasn't paying attention. I don't think they blocked debuffs up before, but it's not protected, so you could cleanse this one off. I wonder, you might be able to block it. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's not protected, so that's something. Though he does get stacks of this stuff whenever you cleanse it off as well.
What if there's no enfeebled debuff to spread? Well, Akumori will end his Scourge Sword attack by placing an unblockable and protected enfeebled debuff for 3 turns on the champion with the highest crit damage. He really wants you landing nothing but weak hits. Effectively, Akumori is looking to take your main damage dealer out of the picture with this attack. If you get hit with this, you can, and absolutely should, cleanse enfeeble ASAP. Bringing support champions who can cleanse debuffs is essential to vanquishing this ghostly warlord. Once he's placed and spread enfeebled debuffs, Akumori can maximize the effectiveness of his first skill, Spectral Lunge. First, he attacks 1 random champion. Once he hits that first champion, Akumori will then attack anyone else under an enfeebled debuff and fill his own turn meter by 20% for each enemy hit.
Okay, yeah, that's really bad.
If your whole team is under enfeebled, Akumori is getting 100% turn meter back when he hits you with this skill. So, keeping those enfeebled debuffs off your team is super important.
Something that's interesting there, so he actually still has, right? Was he not immune to poison when he had 10 stacks? Oh wow, that could be pretty bad then. So it looks like he still actually gets the debuffs, but I guess they just don't do anything. Man, that's really bad for champions. Yeah, for champions that put out lots of poisons. Like, that's something to worry about, filling up the debuff bar with stuff that doesn't work.
Get hit, and Akumori gets less turn meter. Win-win. Finally, we have Wraith Javelin. Akumori.
I guess the reason why that's important is that if he goes above 10 stacks, you put poisons on, but then you hit him with all of your 6-star awakened champions that you've bought, and you knock his counter down below 10, and then he would actually take damage from them. I guess that's why. So that makes sense.
Attacks a single champion and makes full use of his shade counter. He'll ignore the following protective buffs based on the number of shade counter stacks. 10 stacks will get him ignore block damage.
Okay.
20 will nullify unkillable. 30 will make ally protection useless. And 40 or more stacks will let Akumori ignore your champion's shield buffs.
Ooh.
Remember how Akumori's shade counter
That's
also
spicy.
lets him ignore 100% of defense and boosts his crit rate and crit damage massively when up over 40 stacks? Combine it with this skill, and you're looking at one of the most powerful attacks ever. You do not want to come up against this attack with a 40+ shade counter. So, you're staring down the mighty Phantom Shogun. How do you even begin to fight him? Well, there's a couple tips to make your life a bit easier.
Couple of tips. Head over to the shop. You might see some soulstone packs. Buy those. We've simply added soulstones, by the way, into the mini mix pack. Buy those as well. You'll get nothing useful, but you'll cry, I guess.
Numero uno. Bring awakened champions.
Oh my god, it actually is the first strip. Oh! Why?
Their awakening level, the better, as they'll be more effective at keeping Akumori's shade counter in check.
Come on, guys. Just bring your 5 6-star awakened legendaries and then one of your 5-star legendaries that's awakened. Like, come on. It's that easy.
Shade counter low.
Done.
And you'll keep your survivability high. Tip number 2. Bring a cleanser. As you can see, leaving Enfeeble on your team is a bad idea. Cleansing Enfeeble...
I feel like the effectiveness of tip number 2 is significantly below the effectiveness of tip number 1 here for this fight, but I do see it. It's important.
Increase the shade counter by 2 stacks, but it's better than Akumori gaining 8 stacks when you're landing nothing but weak hits on him. Tip the 3rd. Bring plenty of support. Akumori hits hard, so you'll want buffs and debuffs that are going to blunt his attacks and strengthen your defenses.
So I was going to say, I will say, I'm slagging them off about tip number 2 and 3, especially 3, bring support. It's being super vague. That's so vague, right? And it sort of makes a bit of a parody of like, it really is all about awakening tip 1. However, at the same time, I do think there is something good to be said for the tips being sort of vague, if that means that there are going to be a wide variety of champions that are viable for this. That would be cool if there's lots of strategies. Unfortunately, it's going to be mostly about away. I'm just laughing because it's so dumb. Like, it's so dumb. I'm not even angry. I'm just laughing, honestly. But yeah, look, if there's going to be a nice variety of champions that are viable, if awakened, at least that's something. So, the vagueness of those tips gives me a little bit of hope that hopefully this will be a flexible dungeon, sort of.
Decreased critical rate is going to be a great friend here, not just in terms of limiting damage, but also limiting Akumori from gaining shade counter stacks with critical hits.
That's actually kind of cool.
Do not rely on powerful passive skills. Akumori can block passive skills almost indefinitely thanks to his Forest of Spears skill. Fast teams might counter this, but it's better to not rely on champions with powerful passives in the first place. And finally, consider equipping your champions with affinity breaker artifacts.
Okay, that's actually a good tip, right? So that was interesting. I hadn't thought about that, bringing decreased crit rate. That's actually pretty cool. That's a buff that does not get much love really at all in the game. So that being something that is relevant for this dungeon, it's actually pretty interesting. That's kind of cool. So going in and figuring out, what champs do I have that are good with decreased crit rate? That's kind of fun. I like that. And yeah, affinity breaker, I think when it's buffed, it's going to be a 50-50 to not weak hit. Seems to be the thing that you would run on your high crit damage person because they're going to be weak hitting all the time anyway. So it's worth probably having one good copy of this set, but that's probably all that you need. But it's worth grabbing. It is worth grabbing one. So I would say most of us who have been playing for a good while, I think you should probably have enough for a good set. Like I've got, I guess actually not that much. I must have crafted a bunch before. I can only craft 122 5 to 6 star. Interesting. So, interesting as well. Affinity Breaker also boosts your crit damage, which is going to help that champion be targeted because it's your highest crit damage champion. All right. They sort of designed this for Affinity Breaker specifically. Again, I'm okay with that, actually. I think that's fine. But get one good set for a damage dealer here is going to be important.
Going to be landing weak hits thanks to Enfeeble, but having Affinity Breaker gives you a decent chance of changing them into critical hits instead. And that's it. We hope you guys are as excited as we are to face off against Akumari the Phantom Shogun. That's all we've got for this update preview. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our official channel for more.
Okay, I mean, how excited are we? Here's the thing. Man, like the awakening thing is really killing this for me. It really is. If I was to ignore awakening, I think this boss is actually quite interesting. Like, awakening the accessories themselves seems fairly boring. One thing they haven't shown us yet is like necklaces, but I do think obviously getting, like, for an attack-based nuker, getting attack on the ring, getting attack on the banner, and especially getting crit damage on the necklace, that stuff will add up to being pretty potent. And the extra defensive stats, you know, extra accuracy, resistance, those can be very helpful. So okay, fine. Not super exciting though, ascending accessories. Not as exciting as ascending gear. Accessories not generally as exciting as gear anyway, by a long shot in this game. But the boss itself looks intriguing. Apart from this Purge the Shadow nonsense, the boss actually looks pretty fun. Apart from that, I'm intrigued to see like taunt be a thing, decreased crit rate be a thing. I'm curious to actually play test it and see what it's going to be about. However, again, it has to be said, having this be completely based off of awakening, yeah, that's almost okay. Without playtesting it, I won't say for sure, but I strongly suspect that the awakening thing is effectively going to ruin this boss, and really farming the higher levels is going to be all for endgame players. I think for most people, endgame whales and krakens, I should say, I think for most people, this boss, maybe you'll be able to clear the first few floors, you know, figure out, oh, I just ascend the first level of an accessory, find like a good crit damage necklace with crit damage, and then whenever this stuff, these extracts start showing up in tournaments and events, you go and grab them there and just really focus in on your best gear. So like try get, I don't know, let's say Rotus is your best nuker, right? Undead Hordes. Try to find, you know, do minimum amount of this dungeon as possible. Find a crit damage necklace for Rotus with crit damage ascension, and then do some of the tournaments and events when it comes out and get that up, and try not to worry about it too much. I imagine that's sort of the way it's going to be. But look, there we go, guys. That was, yeah, the update preview of Accessory Ascension. What do you think? I have mixed feelings. But yeah, all right, I will see you guys. I've got plenty of videos scheduled to come out over the weekend, so I hope you enjoy those. And yeah, I'll catch you all very, very soon. Thank you for watching. See you all then. Goodbye.